Rich and diverse cultures of Scotland. Come and immerse yourself in the vibrant traditions of the African cultures. Enjoy a cultural gala of beautiful regalia and delicious food that make our communities unique. It's a night to honour our heritage through food, music and dance. Special guest artist Shay Longtom Yu. Official DJ Manu. Get ready to enjoy performances, traditional dance and captivating music ensembles. Don't miss this entertaining cultural exhibition and culinary delights from Cameroon. On Saturday, 14th of September at one of Glasgow's finest, newest and exclusive venue, the home of the great event, Park Lane Loft. 82 Orr Street in Bridgeton, Glasgow, G40 2QF. Event starts 5:30 p.m. until midnight. Secure your ticket now and prepare for a night of glamour and celebration. Entry ticket available now online for £20 at jamboradio.co.uk. £30 at the door before 9 p.m. Dinner served before 9 p.m. at affordable prices. Do not miss. Dress code. Embrace the theme with your best black and white attire or your traditional regalia to enjoy the sophisticated atmosphere of the evening. This cultural gala is going to be an unforgettable evening. Get your ticket now.
On your mobile phone and on all social media platforms. Jambo Radio.
Welcome to Enterprise in Scotland, our weekly show which focuses on bringing conversations around the ethnic minority-owned businesses in Scotland. I'm George Tarr. Today on the show, we are talking to Dr. Samuel Mohara, lecturer of entrepreneurship and innovation at the University of Edinburgh Business School and national co-lead of the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor right here in Scotland. His main areas of research focus includes entrepreneurial ecosystems, inclusive entrepreneurship, especially amongst ethnic minorities, women, and in the regions as well. Entrepreneurial finance also focus on innovations and its impact on productivity, and then the link between entrepreneurship and household and well-being, including household wealth and entrepreneurship and firm performance in developing country context. So that's what Dr. Samuel is very focused on. And Dr. Samuel and his colleague, which is Professor Shrivas Saharas Naman, who are also, both of them are co-leads of a Global Entrepreneurship Monitor Scotland, have conducted a recent survey which shows that Scotland is in the midst of an entrepreneurial renaissance driven by its ethnic minority communities. Dr. Samuel Mohara now joined me in the studio. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's nice to be back.
Great. Always good to have you with the wealth of knowledge and work that you do, especially in research and policies and on entrepreneurship as well. So what is driving the surge in ethnic minority businesses?
Actually, maybe the headline news from that report that we did, the survey that we done in 2023, we found that women in general were starting businesses at the same rate as men, and that is to say, if you look at the working age women in Scotland between the ages of 18 and 64, and we asked them how many of that subsection of society were involved in starting businesses. It was almost 9% of adults, and it was the same for men. Now, for ethnic minorities, the statistics are just staggering because there's a percentage rate of 24%. That's almost 1 in 4 ethnic minority adults in Scotland involved in the early stages of setting up a business.
Well, 1 in 4, that's quite a high number. What do you think is, before we come to kind of the recommendation and some of the things I've picked up, linking it as well with, with the research that you done on specifically on women in 2023, what is the motive for entrepreneurship? Is it just economic hardship, or what is it?
That's an interesting point, because we ask people a range of questions, like what is their motivation, and it will not come as a surprise to many that a lot of people of an ethnic minority background set up businesses because they feel they can't find suitable work in the economy. And it's not to say that they're not finding work. So there's an important nuance there. Is they can't find a job that works for them. So it could be, they can't find a job that is flexible enough to allow them to look after their children. Of course, that's a difficult, set of circumstances for a lot of, especially migrants, who do not have grandparents and the extended family around. And so a lot of people are setting up businesses so they can juggle their professional requirements and the need for household income, whilst at the same time, undertaking their duties as parents and doing their other household chores.
So the balance of that, how does that affect perhaps the economic of a country? Is this good news, or is it what as a country, how does this really play into the economy?
Well, as I say, it isn't all negative. It's not like in the olden days, we used to say minorities are setting up businesses in healthcare, security, and hospitality because they can't find work. What we're finding is actually, some of the dynamics going on in the economy are, such that people can now work as contractors in professional roles. And if you're working as a contractor, you're working for yourself, and you have your old employer, if you like, as a customer now. Okay. So you're not really reporting to work 9 to 5. You're doing, tasks related to a specific project. So you're kind of judged on deliverables as opposed to, showing up to work at 9, leaving at 5.
Okay.
So there's that going on, which is opening up opportunities for minorities. And there's obviously also the difficulties of settling in as a migrant or finding work and finding that you're included in the workplace. So that's also, there's that dissatisfaction driving people into entrepreneurship. There's people starting businesses because they can see opportunities in the country more than the natives can. This is actually something we observe across their population, even people that aren't starting businesses. Minorities that aren't starting businesses are more likely to perceive new business opportunities in the areas they live in, even if they're not really starting businesses. So you have lots of positives, positive motives, and also maybe aspects of negative drivers of entrepreneurial activity.
Yeah, and based on the what you just said there, it not finding suitable work, which, and then does that also indicate that the increase of ethnic minority entrepreneurs is based on the fact that the skills are well developed now. They are more professional. They are more people that can take up contracts with whether it's contract with their previous employer or existing employer, and work as a self-employed person. It's not necessarily that they left the firm, but they could be a consultant rather than being an employee.
Yes, we're seeing a lot of that, and I think what we'll have seen, especially amongst the Asian communities that are kind of more third generation migrants now, they value education really highly, but they also have like a heritage in entrepreneurship, and so you're seeing lots of graduates at the universities. Is something you can see at graduation ceremonies. We've had a lot of those over the summer, and there's a lot more people of color graduating. But because people of color are entrepreneurial almost by nature, because you have to be entrepreneurial to go and make a start in a new country abroad, and you're able to see opportunities and you want that freedom, and maybe you feel like the job doesn't work for you because you have to do these cultural commutes where you have to kind of pretend to be white and act white.
Right.
And if there is an opportunity to work for yourself, where you're not doing this cultural commute, you're shifting the person that you are as you walk into an office, then you choose to work for yourself while still using your professional skills and qualifications.
Okay. The other thing I kind of really wanted to find out is, how this survey, does it indicate that in terms of the ethnic minority, there's a more economic power now?
The economic power is growing.
It's growing.
I think, we're getting more represented in not just in entrepreneurship, but also in established businesses, in chambers of commerce, and the Asian community has made significant strides, and the African community and the Black community in general is kind of catching up. There's developments elsewhere in the UK. We're still fairly small. There's the population of Scotland is 5.5 going on maybe 6 million. And there's still only like a quarter of a million ethnic minority, 18 to working age ethnic minority. So those are small numbers. So we're not really punching above our weight yet. Right. But we're increasingly getting minorities in the right places in the ecosystem. Yeah,
there's also I don't know if as part of this survey, because I know the term ethnic minority is broadly used in terms of Asian, the African and Caribbean, and the Black community basically, and also the South Asian community. Is that what this is involved, or we can say ethnic minority also include like people from Eastern European?
Well, for purposes of this survey, just so we are kind of consistent across the board for comparison purposes, we only include non-white.
Okay.
So there's a good number of Eastern Europeans that get put in the same category as white British.
White. Okay.
But in other research that we undertake for Scotland in particular, the white Eastern Europeans and other white migrants are grouped as ethnic minorities because, in a lot of ways they suffer from the same kind of liabilities of foreignness and liabilities of newness and all of those disadvantages that other minorities struggle with.
Yeah. And what does this also reveal to especially the Scottish economy? Is this does this indicate the story of a new Scotland, a kind of ambitious Scotland, a place where you can strive as a business and you're welcome?
Well, there is work to be done, but there is progress. I think one of the first things it's showing is that minorities and migrants are net contributors to Scotland, and we've done other work previously where we looked at that. We found that migrant-led businesses were contributing around 15 billion to the Scottish economy in terms of the revenue creation that was going around the economy, and that was slightly above the the representation of migrants in the population. So those about 10% of all the revenues kicking about the economy, whilst at the time the population of migrants was around 8%. So that was a net contribution. And if you look at the contribution to entrepreneurial activity, there's 1 in 5 entrepreneurs in Scotland is of minority ethnicity, but the population representation is less than 10%. I think it's 12% in Glasgow, which is the most ethnically diverse city in Scotland, but across Scotland it's about 8%. but we're having 20% of our early stage entrepreneurs being of a minority background. So that's a net contribution to dynamism. And the other interesting thing is, we've done research previously that shows that ethnic minorities actually motivate white people in their communities to become entrepreneurial, which is really interesting. So you have a lot of, for obvious economic reasons, a lot of minorities will sort of set up in deprived areas and contribute to regeneration of those areas. So, and in doing so, they bring a new life to areas that were kind of previously dilapidated. And that then motivates local people to set up businesses. So you have this indirect effect of ethnic minorities, by being entrepreneurial, then encouraging local native white people to themselves become entrepreneurial, and that's a net contribution as well.
Yeah, and does that? I mean, are there any sort of? I'm not sure this survey would have captured that, but whether there's kind of with the influence of ethnic minority in areas that they would have set up and encourage the locals to also join into the spirit of entrepreneurialism. Are there any kind of synergy that is saying that is it helping kind of the integration of the community? Are there business communities that are not only specific to or businesses that are not only specifically run by ethnic minority people, but there are white investors that are also involved in that?
Yeah, you're increasingly seeing, in terms of the investment question, you're seeing a lot of high-tech businesses coming out of universities, for example, that are led by ethnic minorities, and because they are at the elite kind of level of the ecosystem, then they get the support of the business angels and other investors at that level, and they'll mostly be of a white background. That's on the investment side. But more locally, actually one of the interesting things we found in other research is that businesses led by people of a minority background tend to be very closely embedded with other businesses in their local area. So they use local suppliers and serve local customers more than native businesses do, and that shows they're more integrated into the other businesses in the areas within which they operate. Yeah.
And if you're following this show on Jambo Radio social media, you can send us a DM on Facebook. We are Jambo Radio Scotland. On Twitter, we are Jambo Radio Scot. And on Instagram, we are jamboradio.scotland. You can also email us at info@jamboradio.co.uk. And if you want to pick up your phone and perhaps you're listening on our app, on a mobile app or DAB in Edinburgh or Glasgow, you want to give us a call to ask our guests any question that you might have around not just the survey but also kind of entrepreneurial question, you can call the number is 0141 530 2787. That is the studio number. You can call direct and you'll be able to speak to if you have any question whatsoever. So you're still listening to Jambo Radio, and if you haven't yet downloaded Jambo Radio apps, if you're listening on DAB, please go to your app store on your smart device. For those of you on iPhone or iOS devices, at Google Play, you can find it. Google Play on your Android phone, and of course on the App Store on your iPhone. So coming back to you, Sam, I'm just wondering, what does this really play? This sort of data showing the increase of ethnic minority engaging in business is also inspiring, not just not white people, but non-white people also kind of really building a good ecosystem there in the business, in terms of business. In a general perspective, I know I've asked you this question before, how does this help the economy in Scotland if you have a growing entrepreneurship? Is it just growing entrepreneurs in the country? How does this help a country?
Well, it helps in terms of enhancing diversity within business ownership in the country. So we want a Scotland that represents the all the colours of the people that live in this country, which is progress that we're making. But we can't celebrate too much because this is only early stage. When you look at more established businesses, then the rate of ownership of more established businesses in Scotland by ethnic minorities collapses to around 8%, like around the same level as the native white people here.
Right.
And so we've got a lot of work to do to kind of make sure that people aren't just starting businesses and then those businesses failing. We need to support these businesses to become more sustainable businesses, and that may mean that some of the things we do at the university when we teach entrepreneurship is for people to experiment with ideas and try to prove their concept before they've actually invested any money or made the business formal. And one of the things we're looking for is for people to say, having thought this through and tested the assumptions, we think this business is not ready for launch or it's not a very good idea. So we're not seeing that at the present time with minorities. I think there's a lot of people going into business, setting up businesses that will not really survive a year, 2 years, and therefore we can't celebrate these like huge rate of startup activity, because what we really want is for that startup activity to translate into more sustainable businesses that are creating employment, even if it's just sustainable employment for the founders, and then creating employment for other migrant minority communities and also the local kind of white British people as well. So there's that we can't celebrate the fact that we've got more people starting businesses, especially also because as we were discussing before, some of the reasons why people are starting these businesses are not really that positive. So we can't be naively looking at that statistic.
So would you say that they're starting up businesses because they're desperate to do something?
Some of them are because they're desperate, and others are too ambitious, others are too naive. And we need people to maybe be equipped with skills. Funnily enough, a lot of migrant and minority people are very highly educated. So the levels of education in the subpopulation of migrants and minorities is extremely high.
Absolutely.
Like it's almost like an average of a master's degree.
Yes, I think there's kind of 40% of the population. I think with the new census, I was looking at that data. I think 40% of ethnic minorities are really high up in master's degrees. With master's degrees.
The thing is though is that that does not mean you're going to set up a successful business. You might have that master's degree, but you don't have the applied skills to set up a business that has got a chance of surviving. And there's good work that we're doing within the ecosystem, not just people setting up businesses, but you have colleagues in the ecosystem, like the Novate hub that's been set up to try and bring people of a minority background into the mainstream support infrastructure. So people set up businesses that have a chance of succeeding because they're doing the right things in terms of what's needed, for that business to survive, especially those early stages, as opposed to people just setting up businesses because they either they're desperate or they like, this is a country with loads of opportunities, I can make it too, without having the right sets of skills and competencies to actually run a business.
How much of this is influenced by the gig economy, as you know? Is it because people can? I mean, there's quite a lot of people now. You can, especially Gen Z, that they can do. They could be doing content creation, and when you talk to them, they say, "I'm an entrepreneur. I do content creation." how much of that is, do you think some of that kind of perhaps influence this, that people, or was this survey done speaking to people that are in certain industries or in industries that are perhaps kind of traditional industries?
No, it's a population survey.
Population survey.
So
okay.
what we do is we talk to just people so the agency that we use to collect data has ways of reaching people in the wider population, and we asked if are you on your own or with partners in or undertaking steps to set up a business, or are you presently a business owner? How long have you been running such a business? And a lot of people you can imagine will say they're not doing that, which is how we were able to establish it's 24% of the adult subpopulation, because 76% of the minorities that we spoke to over the phone and in the online panels that we do to collect data will say, no, I'm not in the process of setting up a business and I don't own a business. Okay, but you're right to observe that there's a lot of gig economy dynamics driving this, and alluded to that earlier on, where we know from other research there's a lot more minorities taking the option of contracting as an engineer, whether it be traditional engineering or software engineering, because those opportunities are now being provided to employees, and a lot more migrants and minority communities are taking that option, and they're working in the same offices as people that are employees, and they're doing the same jobs, but they take the alternative of being a self-employed person contracting for a big company instead of working for them as an employee. So there's a lot of that we see, and there's a lot of the gig economy stuff. There's a lot of people leaving, people with qualifications. In fact, if you speak to Uber drivers, a lot of them, it's an anecdotal observation, but a lot of them will be Asian and African Uber drivers, right? And you speak to them, there are people that left mainstream jobs because they like the flexibility of being an Uber driver. I can work for myself, I can work at night, I can do whatever I want. So there's a lot of that gig economy stuff driving entrepreneurship, but because most of it is simply self-employment, that's why we say we kind of have to take it really with a lot of nuance, as opposed to just saying, we have all these entrepreneurs in the community. But if you are entrepreneurs that have just created a job for themselves, and they've created a job for themselves.
They've created a job for themselves. But is that a good thing, or?
I think it's a good thing, because as I've said previously, in when I've visited the show previously, we've stopped looking at success in business as the biggest amount of profit, the biggest figure in gross value added. To success is what the person that sets that business defines. So if success for a self-employed person is to be in control of the schedule of their day, when they pick up the kids from school, when they wake up, and the fact that they don't have to deal with these cultural commutes we were talking about. Like you walk into an office and you change the way you speak, you're not being yourself. If success for them is I can be myself, working for myself, then you have to take that as success in business as well.
Okay. And in terms of, I'm just looking at this, I want us to talk on the recommendations, but I'm also thinking maybe one last question on it's sort of, we've talked about other things, and I'm trying to tap into also your, because I know you have a lot of focus on this, and we want to talk about this survey, but I also wanted to think that I always want to use the opportunity when I have you to ask you so many questions. So you can see that I have a lot of list of long questions here I want to ask. One of the things that I always think about, how when some research, and I know you've done quite a few of them, when research, a survey, a report comes out of on this, I'm always asking, are there times that you go back and find out whether this data, is it growing, is it staying steady, and some of the businesses, are they sustainable? Are the entrepreneurs, are they sustainable entrepreneurs? And also, the most important thing is the last thing that you talked about in terms of the way business is being assessed now. It's not about profit or value of the business now. It's more about the impact. Or is that what you're seeing more? Are more entrepreneurs? Is this growing numbers of ethnic minority entrepreneurs? Are they driven by profit or by impact? And when I mean by impact, I'm talking about social impact.
There is a lot of engagement in social entrepreneurship. So this by ethnic minorities and indeed women. There's more women and minorities in the social entrepreneurship space than you find in the wider kind of business population. So there's a lot more of that, and that's driven by various factors. There's a lot of people that set up social enterprises to support other people like them. So I'm sure there are a lot of social entrepreneurs that that have set up businesses to support people in their communities, because they see that gap there, and the mainstream business isn't going to do that. There's a lot of people that set up social enterprises because in some ways maybe the social enterprise space is more generously supported by the government and other social enterprises. So people will set up community interest companies because it's not as difficult to raise funding in that space as compared to a mainstream business. And people will also set up social enterprises because they can focus on the core priorities without the pressure of, I need to grow my business, I need to make it profitable, I'm doing this to make the greatest amount of profit. But they're doing it for impact, whether it be to help, refugees settle in the country, or provide training to marginalized minority women, or, to support the upskilling of people that are adults that are kind of wanting to return into work or get into the workforce. There's multiple social enterprises doing really good work, and they're doing that again mainly for impact. But the other question you asked was whether it's sustainable, and whether we see those businesses becoming highly successful, sustainable businesses. And the reality is actually there's a lot of failure. A lot of minority businesses struggle because some of the gaps they identify will be usually inspired by their own experiences as minorities and things that they're missing, or they perceive to be missing as provisions for other minorities like them, and you see that as an opportunity. But when you look at the numbers, what happens is there's a lovely quote from Dragon's Den. It was Peter Jones said this once to an entrepreneur, and it rings so true. So you have gaps in the market, because like people will say mainstream businesses are not catering to these needs by minority communities. But the biggest question that a successful business has to answer, and if it doesn't answer itself in those early stages of evaluating whether there's a good opportunity or not, then the reality of the market hits it. And this is there might be a gap in the market, all right?
Yeah.
But is there a market in that gap?
In that gap.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a lot of minority businesses discover very quickly that there's no market in the gap, and that's why you see a lot more failure. With businesses not getting to their third birthday, and the rate of business ownership then kind of coming down to the same level as that of native white people.
Yeah, just talking about businesses not going, getting past their third birthday. If a business goes beyond that, does that indicate that it's viable? Is that an indication?
Well, if it's gone past its third
birthday, yeah.
it's doing something right. A lot of businesses get to that level. A lot of them stay small, which is fine. A lot of other businesses will see opportunities to grow and scale, and a good number of them struggle with that because they don't really have a scalable business model, like have systems in place to start exporting and dealing with millions of customers, as opposed to several hundred or thousand customers and things. So it's good that a lot of businesses will go past their third birthday. I think I've seen some statistics suggesting that the average age of businesses is around 16 years. So
that's average here.
Yeah. So you I don't know. I couldn't tell you because we focus more on the early stages and seeing whether there's business ownership beyond 3.5 years. But a lot of businesses go past that third birthday and stay small, and that's absolutely fine, because growing a large business means you lose control of that business. You start employing people, and you need skills and competencies to manage a bigger team. You start going expanding to other cities, and it becomes more complex, and some people just do not want that. They want a business that they can control, they feel is manageable. So again, we used to want businesses to scale and become unicorns and that kind of thing. But I think we support people that want to do that, and we advocate for people that want to grow. But the reality is, a lot of businesses don't actually want to grow. They want to remain as a small business, so they can manage easily without having to deal with the stress of a large organization. I
know you must have said this in this conversation, but I just want to I'm just thinking in terms of the the ethnic minority owned businesses in Scotland. Are they more social entrepreneurs or social maybe community interest company rather than does this I don't know if this survey looked at just generally the business, whether it's social or limited company, private owned,
Well, for this survey particularly, we didn't tease that out in the report. But funnily enough, we did add that question for future surveys. So for the 2024 survey, maybe I'll be able to answer.
Okay, that's okay. Yeah, I look forward to that. Yeah, no, it'd be good to know, because I think involving in the business ecosystem, especially ethnic minority business ecosystem, you find that a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of founders, and are driving towards social entrepreneurs, social businesses, and social enterprises. Sorry, and so there are very few limited companies, and what do you think that could be the issue? Is it it's not an issue because it's about what you want to, the impact the founder or the founders want to make, and what gap is in the market, or what market is in the gap, as you I actually I don't have the numbers today, but
I don't agree that most, you could say most, that is say 50+1% social enterprises. I think like we were saying, a lot of people are going into entrepreneurship as self-employed people, whether it be as contractors or in the gig economy or doing something on the side, and those will not be social enterprises. So you can see there's a lot more visible social enterprises because they're in our communities doing this impact work.
Yeah.
But I think if you look at the thousands and thousands of businesses being set up, a lot of them will be mainstream businesses or indeed just sole proprietorship style businesses as opposed to social enterprises.
Yeah, and with in terms of I think last time here we spoke about, there was an additional guest whom were looking at how the business model really perhaps what is the business model, what and the approach that they're trying to take, and how does I think you raised some questions on how that need to be looked at in terms of the growth plan, which direction that business is going, and one of the things that following from that conversation, one of the things that I kind of realized is how much of a business should be about the founders' own values. For example, if I start up a business based on the fact that I've not been able to, I've been trained perhaps as a network technician, and then or if I've experience with a child that has a specific needs, which is not a provision in the mainstream, and then I set up a business to using that as a way to say, there are other people that might be having the same experience as me with a child with a specific need who is not getting this kind of support that they need to get. Is that a value-based business, or is that kind of a social approach, or is it more like is it economic? Does it make economic sense?
Well, it's an interesting question. I can maybe spin it around a little bit and say that the most important stakeholder in any business is a paying customer. So you can have situations like you're describing, and it's unfortunate that you will have those gaps in the market or subsections of society, people in our communities that are not served. But if you then do go on to set up a business to do that, and the realities of the market are such that you cannot have a sustainable business to do that, then you have questions to ask yourself. Is that something that the government should be doing, providing that support, or is there big enough space for a business? Is that something for charities that are, or government agencies that are funded in a certain way, or is this a business to set up and run? And those are important questions. And sometimes, actually, so we did some work previously on businesses run by disabled people, and they find they have to very quickly look at export markets to make their businesses economically viable, because the market is too small. Yes, you do have people that are not being served, but the realities of running a business will be such that we can't set up a business to support like a very small section of the market, because the cost structure of doing that is not going to be met by whatever revenues we are able to gain. And so you look at other markets abroad to see if we can get more paying customers. And so you can set up the business to kind of make the point or raise the question, but maybe setting up a business isn't the right answer to that issue. Maybe we should do more kind of advocacy work to get, the government or local authorities to provide support for those parts of the community, as opposed to setting up a business that then goes on to fail.
Wow. Okay. Let's talk about the recommendation that which this study, the research basically kind of made. Now I know this is something that I've had a conversation with you before, and when you visited, and it's about the policy making. Is it this? In terms of the sustainability support for early stage startup, early stage entrepreneurs, what sort of support do they really? What sort of support is the system supposed to provide, rather than is it a policy thing, or is it more sort of financial investment that is required?
Well, of course, finance comes nearer the top of the issues.
We need the money.
And that's important. That has to be looked at. But I think the one of the really big things we have to equip our minority entrepreneurs with are just the skills to model a good, viable business. In those early stages, to run experiments, to design a business model that works. Do you have, like a good market that you're targeting? How big is that market? Can you grow a business around that market? And if the answer is no, then there's no space for a business there. And other things are you using the right technology? Are you surrounding yourself with the right people? Do you understand the language of business and all that kind of stuff? So some of the work being done to chaperone people into the mainstream is actually more helpful than funding, because you find that people are able to kind of have conversations with other entrepreneurs and are in the loop for opportunities that are coming out, and they're able to kind of get the skills and networks to have a go at setting up a good business. Now, funding comes with that. There has to be movement on both sides. We want minorities to understand how the ecosystem works, to be able to navigate that ecosystem. But we also want the mainstream ecosystem to be more inclusive. So it's not just judging minorities on the basis of the language and models and tools that the mainstream ecosystem uses. So we want to create the recommendation is that we create a space where minorities can have more conversations with the mainstream ecosystem, and there's understanding on both sides. Now, we have to up our game as well. We say we're not minority businesses are not getting funded, and we know how funding works. If you're looking, for example, at bank financing, the bank has to be satisfied that you've got the capability to repay that money. But if you're setting up a business in the hospitality space, for example, where the hospitality industry is one that kind of plagued by very high rates of failure in general, then the bank will look at that business and say, I don't know if this business as presented has or demonstrates the potential to repay this money back, because it's in an industry, a problematic industry with high failure rates. It's probably targeting a very small market, and there's a high sunk cost aspect to this business, so I'm not sure I want to fund this business. And that is before you even start to add other factors, like I'm not sure, this person, of African origin without qualifications in the UK, whether they have the right management skills. Before you add all those biases, our businesses do not pass the smell test because we don't have a big enough market that we are capturing, and we don't have the skills and competencies to the majority of us. This is changing, and we have some big, very highly successful businesses that are coming through. So we have to educate our people to understand the language of business, and especially the language that the investors speak and the things they look at. And at the same time, we need more advocacy work so that those investors can start to be a little bit more accommodating, do a little bit more work to understand businesses set up by minorities and to support them without the kind of, very kind of high kind of hurdle rates that they set for us. So there has to be a give on both sides, but it's mostly on us to be as minorities to understand how the system works, so we can navigate that system a little bit better.
You've talked about advocacy. What sort of, in this sort of, in this sort of ecosystem, what sort of advocacy needs to be happening? And then my follow-up second question on that would be, what really makes a good business model?
Well, I can answer this.
That one easily.
The second one first. A good business model is, number one, do you have a paying customer?
Paying customer, yeah.
You have a paying customer, a good market size, so a number of good potential paying customers. If you have that, then you can build a good business around that. But that's not enough. You have to have the right team. You have to have the right systems in place, and a good value proposition. You have to map what you're providing to specific needs that customer has, and then that customer has to have the capability to pay, or you're able to design a model where someone is paying for that. It's the most important thing for a business is the exchange, that you're doing something for someone that has a cost implication on your part, and someone is prepared to pay for that because they're gaining something. Okay, so for that much to work, you need a customer, you need a paying customer, and then you need the right team and right systems to make the whole thing work.
Yeah. So the right system would be the mechanism that is in place in terms of to make it easy for the paying customer to receive the service and also make the payment. Or what would the right system?
It's for the whole structure to work. So you have, if you think about, this is the value we need to deliver for our customer. How do we generate that value? How do we deliver that value? Who is helping us deliver this value in terms of who do we work with as partners in the ecosystem? Who do we have within our team? And how is the business set up? And this includes, for example, are we following the regulations that are in place? Are we offering our services at the right level of quality? Do we have a team that is sustainable? Do we have systems that bloody work? That's what we want. And if we do these and you have a paying customer, then the whole mechanism is well lubricated.
Wonderful. So, and in terms of the advocacy,
in terms of advocacy, we just need to have more people in the ecosystem making noise. And you see what's happening in the female entrepreneurship space. You have huge, lovely advocates like Anna Stewart, and other women, they're saying, look at the work that women are doing, look at the disadvantage, we need to do something here. And then you need also other advocates that are demonstrating the value. So it isn't just out of goodwill. So you have, for example, Investing Women Angels, that have been demonstrating, if you provide capital to female-led businesses become sizable businesses with a good return on that investment. So you guys with the money that are looking at women as people that set up businesses that are not investable, look at all these opportunities that you're missing. So you also need people that are that have got the politicians listening. So you'll see a lot of money being channeled through the pathways funding, that came out of the work, the research and the report that was done.
That's
by
right.
Anna Stewart and Mark Logan, and that was set up by the Scottish government. And you have now all the agencies, Scottish Enterprises on board managing that channeling funding. So you need to have people at the right level making noise and then showing the output, showing the fruits. And we have people within our communities that are doing that. We just need to be a little bit more vibrant in doing that, and with clear success stories. So we're not just saying support us because we are needy minorities. We're saying support us because there's all these opportunity and potential, and it isn't just potential. It's like these are the fruits we are already demonstrating. So if you feel the fire that we're building, then we have a momentum that we can grow and make all these contributions. So we have to shift a little bit from support us because we're minorities and we're disadvantaged and all of that needy kind of approach to like saying we are here, we're making contributions, we've got potential, and we've demonstrated that potential in this way. So work with us to unlock this potential instead of like help us being almost kind of beggars in that space, because that's not going to work, and it builds a little bit of resentment within the rest of the ecosystem.
I'm afraid we've run out of time, Dr. Samuel Mwara. I'm always enjoying my conversations with you, especially, and thank you for coming for Enterprise on this program, Enterprise in Scotland. Of course, our weekly show, which focus on bringing conversations around ethnic minority-owned businesses, and your insight is always wonderful. And I know a lot of our listeners will be making note, not just listening, but also making note for those that have some, entrepreneur and those that listen to this program. A lot of it on Saturday morning. That's it for this week. Dr. Samuel Mwara was our guest. He's a lecturer of entrepreneurship and innovation at the University of Edinburgh Business School and a national co-lead of a global entrepreneurship monitor right here in Scotland. We're done for this week. Until next week, goodbye.